The lights dimmed as the next contestant walked onto the stage. At first, the audience reacted with light laughter, not because he looked nervous, but because he looked strangely familiar. As he stood under the spotlight, whispers began spreading across the crowd. Some people leaned forward in their seats. Others looked at the judges, especially Simon Cowell himself. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. This Filipino man looked uncannily like Simon Cowell. Same facial structure, same confident posture. Even the haircut felt almost intentional. Cameras quickly cut to Simon, whose eyebrows lifted in confusion. He stared at the contestant, then laughed, shaking his head as if he was seeing his reflection from another dimension. The audience erupted with laughter and applause. Simon leaned into his microphone and joked that he didn't remember having a twin, let alone losing one in the Philippines. The contestant smiled politely, clearly used to these reactions. He explained that people had been telling him this his whole life. In his hometown, they called him Simon Cowell ng Barangay. The judges laughed, but like many talent show auditions, they assumed this moment was just a funny look-alike story. A joke, a novelty act. Then came the question that changed everything. "So, what will you be doing for us today?" one of the judges asked. The man took a deep breath and replied calmly that he would be singing. That's when the mood shifted. The laughter faded into curiosity. Singing, from a Simon Cowell lookalike. Expectations were suddenly all over the place. Some expected comedy, others expected something average at best. Simon himself leaned back, arms crossed, wearing the expression he often gives when he's ready to be disappointed. The music started, and the very first note silenced the entire room. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't average. This wasn't something you hear every day. His voice was rich, controlled, and deeply emotional. It carried power, but also vulnerability. Within seconds, the audience realized they were witnessing something special. The cameras cut to the judges again, and this time, there was no laughter. Only shock. Simon Cowell leaned forward. As the song continued, the Filipino singer poured his heart into every lyric. His voice rose and fell effortlessly, hitting notes that made people's eyes widen. Some audience members covered their mouths in disbelief. Others were already wiping away tears. This was the moment no one expected. A man who walked onto the stage as a look-alike joke was now delivering one of the most powerful performances of the night. Halfway through the song, the crowd began applauding in rhythm. You could feel the energy building. By the time he reached the final chorus, the entire theater was on its feet. A standing ovation before the song even ended. When the last note faded, there was a brief second of silence. Then the room exploded. Cheers, screams, thunderous applause. Simon Cowell stood up. For a man known for being brutally honest, for crushing dreams with a single sentence, this was huge. Simon clapped slowly at first, then nodded with a smile that said everything. When the judges finally spoke, one of them admitted they had completely misjudged him. Another said they came in expecting a gimmick but left feeling genuinely moved. Then Simon spoke. He admitted that at first, he thought the resemblance would overshadow everything else. But he said something remarkable. He told the contestant that while they might look similar on the outside, his voice was entirely his own, and it was unforgettable. The Filipino singer's eyes filled with tears. He shared that he had grown up in a small town, working odd jobs, often mocked for his appearance. People laughed at him before they ever listened to him. Music was his escape. Singing was how he proved to himself that he was more than a joke. That confession hit hard. The audience grew quiet again, this time not from shock, but from respect. Simon nodded and said that moments like this are exactly why these shows exist. Not for perfect looks, not for expectations, but for surprises that remind us never to judge too quickly. When the votes came in, it was unanimous. Yes from every judge. The golden lights flashed, and the crowd roared as the contestant covered his face in disbelief. A man who walked in as Simon Cowell's lost twin walked out as one of the most talked about voices of the season. As he left the stage, Simon joked that he might need to start checking his family tree, but then added something sincere. He told him to never let anyone reduce him to just a resemblance, because talent like that deserves its own spotlight. That audition didn't just go viral because of how he looked. It went viral because it reminded millions of people around the world that talent can come from anywhere, and sometimes the biggest surprises walk in wearing a smile and a familiar face. If you enjoyed this unbelievable talent show moment, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who loves shocking auditions, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional, life-changing performances just like this one. Because sometimes, the person you least expect ends up being the one you'll never forget.